Hey class, in this video I want to talk about how to handle check all that apply questions from electronic forms. Let me give you an example here. So right here I've got an example of a question that you might have on a survey. It says, which of the following sports have you ever played on an organized team? Hockey, soccer, baseball, football, lacrosse, other please specified, and then I've never played an organized team sport. If you use something like Google Forms, then the results that you get back electronically may look like this. And so they're all bunched together here with a comma as a delimiter. That's the term that we use when there's a symbol. Usually it's a comma, or it could be a tab, or it could be a semicolon, but it's used to separate out the different values here. Just a note here, and that is that because Google Forms is using commas as delimiters here, make sure that in your particular options that you don't have a comma in the words, in the options themselves there. All right, so this is a bit of a problem here because they're all jumbled together here, right? So the first one is soccer, baseball, football, field hockey, and then the next one starts with baseball and so on like that. And so you've got some problems here. It would be really nice if we could get them into their own separate column here. Now, one thing that you can do is you can highlight these data here. Actually, before I do that, I should really be making a copy here. So let's make a copy. All right, there we go. Now, what you can do is you can highlight this whole column here. I've just called it original, but it'll come by the question name that you've got in the survey. So I've got 70 respondents here. And then what you can do is you can choose something here called, let's see, it's under it's either tools or data. Here it is. I've got a Mac version here, and it says under data, text to columns. And so what you do is you can click on that, and it's a little hard to read down here, but what it's got down here is either fixed width, which you don't want, because these different words here, these sports all have different number of characters. You want something called delimited. And delimited means that they're separated by some character. In this case, it's a comma here. So we click on next. And you'll notice actually that I've done this already earlier today here. And so I checked here comma as the delimiter here. You can also check tab. I don't think tab is necessary in this case here, because I think all they have is they're all bunched together with commas. So commas is the only thing that we really need here. And then I press next, and it's fine where it is, except that you need to give the destination here. So destination is where the new columns are going to be. So I could put them down here like so. I'm going to click it here in C16. And then just go like that and finish. And this is what I end up with. Now, the problem with that, I suppose I should have actually been up one, because it had the title here, original. So let me just quickly do that. Okay, now the problem with that is that this doesn't really work well for this kind of question. And the reason is that I've got soccer as the first item here, and then baseball, but you'll notice baseball is the first one in this row, but it's the second one in this row. So it would really be nice if I had a hockey column, a soccer column, a baseball column, and so on. I wanted to show you this because this whole text to column is still a common thing which people use, but it's probably not the best thing that we want to use in our case. So let me show you a better way of handling this. So I'm going to go back here to my original page, and I'm going to make a copy again. And I'm going to go up to the original question. Now, you can just simply go into your Word document or your PDF, and we just want to highlight the options here. So not the question itself, but just the options themselves. And I'm just going to copy that. So Control C, or of course I can go up to the Home tab and I can choose copy there. And now I'm going to move over here. So I'm right beside the column that says original. And I'm going to go up to paste. Well, actually I can just right click here. So right click, paste special, transpose. And what transpose will do is it'll take that whole list there and it will put them as separate columns here. Now, of course, I can simply just go and type them in myself, but it's easy to make a mistake and add in an extra space or misspell something. And so I like to use the transpose, but if you have trouble with that, then you can just simply type them across. So now I've got a column here for hockey, soccer, baseball, football, lacrosse, other, and then I've never played an organized team sport. What I'm going to do here is actually just move the other, so it's on the other side of I've never played a team sport. I'm going to get rid of this blank column now, like that, and then I think I'll just make that column a little bigger here. So I've got other here. The other thing I'm going to do with other is just get rid of the please specify. So it just simply says other. So now I've got other, I've never played a team sport, and then these 5 sports here. I might as well color those. So let's do that. All right. Now, what we have to do then is to get these guys over here. What you probably don't want to do is to do it individually, as in soccer. So I go in here and I type in a 1 or a yes, and then baseball. You could do that, but it's easy to make a mistake in doing that. So let me show you a quick and dirty way of doing this. All right, I'm going to just get rid of all this stuff at the top here. You don't need to do that, but typically when we're setting up our database columns, then we usually have the titles at the very top here and the respondents in the left-hand side here. And so this is typically how you would set up your database column. All right, I'm going to go down here to C1, and I'm going to put in a formula which is just simply a find formula. So equals find, and then comma, and what it says is find text. Now the text that I want to find in here is the word hockey. So what I do is I click actually on C1, which is where the word hockey appears. Now I'm going to, let me make that actually a little bigger there. Okay, I'm going to put a $sign in front of, oops, there we go. I'm going to put a $sign. Sorry, I messed up here. There we go. C1. I'm going to put a $sign in front of the 1, but not the C. And that's because I'm going to be copying this formula across and down. And I always want to be going back to row 1 because that's where the names of the sports are. And then I put in a comma, and it says within text. And so what I do is I click over here in B2, and I'm going to put a $sign in front of the B. And that's because I'm always going to be going back to column B, because that's the original column that I got from Google Forms. And as I copy that across, the B will stay fixed. So that's all I need to do here is equals find C$1, comma, $B2. And the row 1 and column B are fixed. with dollar signs, but don't put dollar signs in front of the others. Now I'm going to press enter, and I get the number 35. Let's just go all the way across here, like that. And let's go all the way down, like this. Right to there. Okay, and I think that's where I'm at here. Let's just go down here and check. Yeah. Now, what you'll see here is you'll see a whole bunch of numbers and then errors. It says a number value error here. What this 35 is saying here is that the word hockey actually appears 35 characters in to this particular text right here. So if we went here and we started counting with soccer being the first 6 and then the comma 7 space and so like this, you'd find that the word hockey comes as the 35th character. Now this one incidentally is a bit of a problem because that's not the same as ice hockey, but I wanted to include that as an example because that is a sport that people put down as other. The other thing I want you to notice here is that the values mean that actually it didn't find the word hockey in here. So you can see in this one and this one and this one and this one and so on, you don't see the word hockey. That's okay, that's not a problem here. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to highlight all the way across here, because remember, it's always good to highlight a particular row so that when you're doing some sorting here, you make sure that those guys stay together here. Maybe let me take this down a little bit. It's just a little too big here. Okay. Oh, still a little big. Okay, that's better. That's down to about where I want it here. All right, now this is useful, but we're not there yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click anywhere in the hockey column here. And then I'm going to go up here to the A to Z. If you go to data, you'll find the A to Z sort there. And I'm going to sort it. Now you'll notice that these yellow guys, they all stay together, right? Everything in a particular row stays together, so we're good. And what we end up with is that, well, for the first several, there's not a problem because hockey is the first choice, and so you would expect to see a bunch of 1s because that's the first character in the list over here. So that's good. Where we run into an interesting problem is when you get down to these 17 and 35s. And if you take a look here, a real quick look at it will show you that it's not actually ice hockey that we're talking about, it's field hockey. So we only want actually ice hockey in this case, so I'm going to just get rid of those 2. Like that. And we will take care of those actually in the other column a little bit later. All right, now what I'm going to do with these 1s here is I can either keep them as 1s or I can put them as yeses. So I'm going to do them as yeses and then just copy them down. And that's because I may end up using this particular column only in my analysis. So for instance, I might be doing a test of independence of gender versus hockey. And so I just want to look at this one column and see do they answer yes or no here. Now, I'm not going to change these guys to blanks, these blanks here to no's at this particular point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of them all. So I'm just going to highlight and push delete. So now I've got yeses and a bunch of blanks. And I'll show you why a little bit later why we do that. Okay, now let's go down here and do the same with the rest. So soccer. I'm taking a look at this, I'm looking at the numbers, and yeah, that works here. So 1s and 9s, either soccer's the first choice or it comes after hockey here. So I'm going to change all of those there then to yeses. Okay. And let's just do that all the way down. So I'm going to copy those. And then I'm going to get rid of all the blanks, or all the errors here. If you're really proficient with Excel, you could put in a function that if there is an error, then you would change that just to a blank cell and so on like this. But let's just make it simple here. So baseball, let's do the same. And we take a look down here. Is 17 too big? No, that actually works quite well. 17th character is good. None of the others talk about any goofy forms of baseball or anything like that. So I'm going to change these guys to yeses and highlight them all the way down here. And then we go like this, blank. Okay. Continue on. Football. And let's see, 17, 19, 27, those all look good when you take a look at them. Yeah. So yes, like that. And blank. All right. Lacrosse. We're almost there, folks. Okay. So take a look at these numbers down here, and certainly you can 37 for a starting character is fine if they've been involved with a whole bunch of other sports. So there's, that looks good. So like that. By the way, with these values, I'm just holding down the shift key and then end down, and then press delete, and that gets rid of them. Okay, this one. So this is an interesting one. I've never played an organized team sport before, and these guys should only actually have that as an option. So when I take a look at this one here, this is a something that you want to take a look at the original column here, and what they've got is, I've never played an organized team sport before, and then they've got badminton. Now you have to decide then how you're going to handle that. My guess on this one here is that they've never been involved with being on a badminton team, but they've maybe played badminton, maybe they've rented the gym or something like that, and so it's just more casual. So I would actually get rid of that badminton there, like that, and so now you're fine here. Similarly down here, you've got that we've got hockey, and then I've never played the organized team sport, and so I don't want that one either. I don't want the hockey here. By the way, in the last one, I actually got rid of the badminton. You can do that with the hockey. We're not going to be using this column again anyways, but if you want, you can certainly get rid of the hockey here. That's fine. It's not going to make any difference. What's important here is these yeses that we're going to put in here. So yes, and then copy it down. And then I'm going to get rid of these guys like that. Okay. All right, now the other, that's kind of an interesting one in terms of how you handle that one. This is how I would do this, is that if we take a look at the others, you'll notice that in our particular question, so let's go back to the original question here. We had hockey, soccer, baseball, football, lacrosse, other, and then I've never played an organized team sport. Now what we did was we moved the column of I've never played an organized team sport, right? And then in the last sort that we did, we actually took care of those goofy ones where people put down more than one option. So in other words, we don't have to worry about those. Anybody who put down, I never have played an organized team sport, is that's the last thing which is written there in the text there. So I'm going to use a function here called the write function. Now, let's take a look actually at how long some of these are. Hockey is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters, and about the same here. Baseball is 7 characters, 7. This one is about 8 characters, and then this one is a whole bunch here. In order to cover the main sports here, it looks like we could probably go, we could take a look at the last 10 characters in a listing here. So I'm going to use a function here called write, and then left bracket. I'm going to click over here in column B, and then comma 10. All right, so equals write B2, because that's where the original column was, and then 10 characters. And I'm just going to copy that all the way down. Now, let's sort this. So when I sort this, what's interesting here is there's actually 3 guys who are blank, and I'm going to ignore them right now. You could actually get rid of them at this point, but we'll talk about them later. And then I've got some badmintons, and badminton actually is a valid other for a sport here that they've got. Okay, these are people who did not check, I've never played on an organized team before. The only thing that they did put down here, or one of the options that they put down here, was badminton. So we're going to say that it was an organized badminton team. So we're going to keep that. These guys are the baseball people, so we have comma baseball. So we can get rid of those, right? Because that's not a different sport, that's just baseball. Same with football, same with lacrosse. And then we've got baseball again. And then we've got down here, it looks like hockey and Xbox. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of leave that one for now. And then I've got field hockey. Sorry, there's one more thing I should have done up here. Let's go back up here. I'm going to highlight these guys all the way down. My apologies, I should have done this first. And then I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to do a paste values. So paste special values. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to change it to the words instead of the formula here. So I'm going to continue back down here. By the way, I should also highlight this guy yellow for when we do any further sorting here. Let's get back up here now to Xbox. So this Xbox then, for right now, I'm just going to get rid of the hockey part of that and keep that as Xbox. And then I've got the Eld hockey, and I look at that and say, oh, what is that? And I look back over on here, and it says field hockey. So these guys actually then are valid team sports. And so I'm going to change them into field hockey. And let's see. There we go. Okay. And I'm just going to copy those guys down here for those 4. All right, then we've got soccer is fine, football is fine, hockey is fine, and I've got lacrosse. So I'm going to leave that one down there. Then I've got squash. Then I've got racquetball. Then I've got soccer, squash. And then I've got a bunch of team sports down here. And those, of course, are the people that, the last 10 characters of that particular entry there was I've never played an organized team sport. So that's what I'm left with, is these guys here. Now, by the way, I need to do a sort by this column still. So I'm going to sort this. Let's go back up to the very top here, and I'm going to do a sort. And anything that it's a blank, I actually want to delete. And the reason for that is that it doesn't look like there's anything in there, but there actually is. And so it's not a completely empty cell. And that's going to be important for when we take a look at the next step here. So I've deleted this. And then the last thing that I would do is I would go here and I would take a look and say, are these all okay as values here? So I've got badminton. By the way, I've got a space there. I might want to just get rid of that just to make it just a little cleaner here. Where am I? There we go. Badminton, field hockey, lacrosse, racquetball, squash, Xbox. And I might look at that and say, do I want to include Xbox in here as a team sport? And you might argue, well, some people do this as a team sport maybe, but that's not what we're looking for. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Blink, like that. All right, this is good now. So the next thing that I'm going to do here then is I'm going to put in something called count, and I'm going to use a count A function. And the count A function is going to tell me actually how many values do I have in each row. So I'm including the other column here, and I end up with 0. Now, if I didn't get rid of these guys right here, if I didn't blank them out, it would actually say 1. It would actually count that. So now I'm going to go all the way down. It's to row 71 here. And then I'm going to sort according to that. Oh, let's change this to a yellow, although it's not going to be a big deal when you've got just a count function in there. But let's sort this now. And so I've got some people down here who actually are playing a lot of sports, right? So they're playing all 5 of them. And 4s, 3s, 2s, a bunch of 1s here. And then at the very top, I've got these 3 zeros. Now, we saw these guys before, but this count will just really help you to see where the problems are here. And these are people who actually didn't even answer the question. So they should have at least put down that I've never played an organized team sport. So I'm going to get rid of them. So just delete those 3. And now what we're left with is everybody who's left then has at least answered the question. Okay, I can get rid of that count column if I want. On the other hand, I might want to keep this as a useful column here, because I might be asking the question about, well, how many sports do you play? And so I've got that information now. So I'm just going to keep that. Maybe I'll change that to a better number here. So something like the number of sports, and rather than just count. Okay, now let's go back over here. It doesn't matter how these are sorted. This is sorted according to the last column here, but I can sort back according to respondents if I want. Notice that this yellow row stays the same here. When I come to analyzing this, what I'll do here is I'm just going to make a note here in terms of the others. But if I'm doing any sort of analysis, I'm probably just going to be focusing in on a single column, such as hockey versus gender, soccer versus gender, something like that. And so the others, I'm just going to, in my write-up, just mention how many people said field hockey, how many says squash and racquetball and so on like that, badminton. For these other ones though, what I want to do is I want to change all of the blanks to no's. So at this point then, I've changed all of the, if they've checked it, I've changed it to a yes. And now I want to change all the rest to no's. Now notice, by the way, I didn't do that before I got rid of the rows where people didn't answer any of the options. I want to get rid of those people first. So that's why I didn't do this right at the very beginning. But everybody who is left here has answered the question. They've checked at least one thing, even if it was I don't play any sports, organized team sports. So I highlight all of these cells here, and then I go up to Edit, Find, Replace. And I was practicing with this before I made this little video here. So what I do in the Find What is I just keep it blank. And then down here, what I've done is I've typed in the word no. So I'm going to replace all the blanks with the word no. Now that's only for the highlighted cells, so it's important that you highlight those cells and then you push replace all. And there we go. It says we made 276 replacements. And then I'm going to close that. And I think I'm pretty much done here. This is useful here because what I've got now is I've got the, I can keep this original column if I want, although it's not really of any use to me anymore. And so I can just get rid of that. And what I'm left with then is a column for each of the answers here. What I might do is say, well, this was question 6 and the answer is hockey. And so this is useful to actually name it according to the question number. And that's something that I typically do here. I don't know what question, of course, it was on the survey. I just made this up. Oops, where am I here? And so on like that until you've done them all. And so this particular one here, you might just simply change that to, not played or something like that. That'll make it a lot easier here. And then other, and then where am I? Question 6, and we are pretty clean here. I think we're done here. So this is useful now. What this means now is that we can take a look at just one column against, say, gender or something. What you don't want to do is you don't want to consider this a test of independence where it's a check all that apply, and so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different columns here versus gender, a 2x6 matrix. It doesn't work that way, and that's because in a test of independence, a person can only be in one particular cell. But in this particular case here, when you've separated them all out into separate columns here, you can consider each column separately. So it's a little 2x2 matrix. Your gender, male, female, and unless there's some others that there's enough of those, otherwise you would take those out. And then gender, did they answer it? Did they check it off, pardon me? Yes or no? The other thing that you can do is when we get into things like, say, dummy variables, or if you're testing proportions, then you could actually change these yeses here to 1s and 0s. So just simply go in here to find and replace, and you could change the yeses here. Yes, to a 1, and replace them all. And then you could do the same with the no's. Okay. Anyways, that is what I'm going to do to end this thing. I'm going to change it back to yeses and nos, so you can change them all to 1s and 0s. And that's where I'm going to end this video here. Thanks for watching.